Careful what you say or you'll get better.
Welcome.
Every time, man.
What did I do now?
No, every time, just the end of that song.
Oh.
It will never ever get old.
I was
Tim
stressing out. I was like,
away.
is the intro playing? I wonder if people can see it. Did I mess this up too? Well, welcome to the show. I think we have a good show that we can talk and have good discussion with, and hopefully we'll have some good interaction with people that want to throw in their information as well. And we do encourage that a lot. Anyway, this, I guess, to give you a background of how I kind of ran across this idea. Hey, JD, I hope this will be a great show for you, but you picked the wrong host for really hanging a great night for. I'll be drunk by 3/4 in and like completely gone.
That's what makes it great, Tim.
Yes. The drunker you get, Tim, the better the
funnier
show
it
is.
So anyway, we've done this. We've kind of gone over this before on different shows, but we've never really actually talked about it in depth. And that's watching people that say that they're investigating claims of paranormal activity, or that they're a paranormal investigator. But then we see, the typical, please make a noise, make a sound, do something. And then when it actually happens, people run. And we just never really got into like what it actually is an investigation, and what are the methods, like the tools, maybe like how you do it. I'm sure that it's going to be different for a lot of people. And as I went through kind of reading, it seems like it's going to be different for a lot of people that have different philosophies about how they're looking at things. But the core of it seems to be kind of similar. So I thought, well, shit, let's just throw out and see what we can, hone down to a core principle of what we, at least the three of us, would think would be a good basis for an investigation. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
We should do a show one time where we don't tell the other people what the show's about.
Mystery topics.
Let me write that down. Show idea.
Or have us
go first,
pick
Dave?
something to talk about and not tell anybody else what it is. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I can
Go, Dave.
Yeah. So no, I think it's a good topic. We've kind of talked about a variety of different things that would be part of an investigation. But Tim's got the love heart going. That's a big step, Tim. You're still trying to figure out which side of the screen to point to for us, but no, but I think we've talked about these things in little bits and pieces. We did the ethics of doing experiments. Maybe when you're on site, we've talked about data logging. We've talked about equipment, interviewing witnesses, eyewitness territory. So those are all things that are part of a thorough investigation. But I don't think, we haven't ever talked about how would we actually do an investigation. So years ago, when Jen and I had an active group, we had our way of going through and doing things and certain steps to go through. But taking a look at that to prep for the show and thinking now with some of the new stuff that I've read and thought about, how would I change that? What would I do differently? What would I do better now? So I'll have a couple things to throw into the pot to talk about in those areas, and we'll just kind of see where it goes. So good topic. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I love this kind of discussion because it brings out different perspectives. There's the three of us have different ways of approaching this, and I mean, we come to pretty much similar conclusions, but we all have our areas of expertise where we can really bring it to the table, you know? So I love exploring this topic because it's like we can throw out, all right, I do this. And then Dave says, I do this. And Tim says, well, I do this. And then it gives people more ammunition, more stuff in their virtual tool bag in order to approach things. Plus I think we bring up different ideas like that maybe they didn't think of before, or maybe they don't consider, because if the majority of ghost hunters, and I'm going to stereotype here, if they watch TV and they emulate what they see on TV, they're not thinking critically. They're not thinking outside the box. So hopefully we touch on some things that make you go, totally threw that in an 80s reference or 90s reference.
Things that make you go,
So yeah, I'm ready. I want to jump right in. I want to get to talking about it. And I mean, when you say, what does it mean to investigate? Like, to me, just to throw these out there, three things: to get answers, to solve a mystery, and to gain a better understanding. At least that's off the top of my head. That's why I investigate. So there you go. So I'll throw it back out to you guys.
I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think that's right on it. I did, just for the beginning, thought, well, I looked up an Oxford Dictionary definition.
Ooh, cool.
So we'll start it out with that for me. So to define it is to carry out a systematic or formal inquiry to discover the facts of an incident or allegation, etc., so as to establish the truth. It also keeps going into also to carry out research or study into a subject, typically one in scientific or academic fields, so as to discover facts or information. Which I like that. I like that they make the distinction between academic and science to discover facts and information myself. And then the third is to make inquiries as to the character, activities, or backgrounds of a person. So it looks like really it's just about fact finding, which is kind of where I was at. So, you know, a lot of my training is just about fact finding. And so to be you know, when if I'm on the stand and someone says, what do you do? And I'm a forensic interviewer. And like, what is that like? And I say I conduct neutral fact-finding interviews, non-leading neutral fact-finding interviews. So that's it. That's all I do. I don't make assumptions or judgments or anything. That's all I do. Is just ask questions and try to get as many facts as I can. So it's just fact-finding. And maybe part of the investigation is you could say what to do with the facts at the end, or once you have the facts that you think that you need. But at least for the investigation itself, I think I like the idea. It's just a neutral fact-finding methodology.
Yeah, it's good. I agree. I mean, I think when you're investigating, well, I mean, I'll just jump into some of the steps that I do. And first and foremost, I try to get the claims that are being made. Like, I don't like doing, and I've always made this distinction. Don't do stakeouts.
Damn it, Kenny!
I got an outline over here, bitch. Shut up. So I make a distinction that there are stakeouts, there are investigations, and then there's just the thrill-seeking ghost hunts. So stakeouts, you pretty much just sit there all night. You may change rooms, but you wait for something to happen. And you're pretty much like those FBI guys we see in the movies that are renting the apartment across from the mafia front restaurant, and they're just watching them with cameras. And they have bugs and stuff like that. That's what I see most ghost hunts as. Whereas investigations, you need something to investigate. There has to be a claim. And if you say it's just haunted, okay, why? You know, don't, because that's a lot of time that we invest in it. So I want to know specific claims, and not only the specific claims, but I want to weed out the ones that I can't test and go for the testable claims. Oh, look at that. Relax.
Relax.
Somebody commented I put a behind the
Toss
scenes.
that out. Relax, Tim.
I need to make one for Tim now. But yeah, you need testable claims, something that for me, that's what I go for. I need something that I can go in there and set up either equipment or be there at a time when something allegedly happens. And then let's go from there. I need all the details. And one of the main things that I do is I interview the witnesses. And I think it's really, really important to interview the witnesses, not only separately, not together, not in a group, separately, but as soon as possible after the experience and or event. As soon as possible, because the more time you wait, the more time they have to discuss it, the more time they have to fill in the blanks of their memory, to be influenced by what they see on TV or stories from other people. So that's my start off. That's where I'm going to start with, and then I'll shoot it back out to you guys.
You want to go ahead, Dave? I kind of jumped in on the last one.
Sure. So I think what Kenny is describing is something that back when we were doing private homes and businesses, and even now, if we're going to go to a place because it has a history or people report a lot of different phenomena, you want to ask questions, you want to interview people, you want to understand what they experienced. And we used to do an extreme amount of questions. So this book, actually by Lloyd, is pretty good, ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, because in the back of the book, he has tons of questions that we actually used to make everybody answer. Every witness, everybody who reported something, it went through the initial questions to help determine if an investigation isn't even warranted. And let me see, as I go through here, there's 34 questions just on that. And then the who, what, where, when, and how, to kind of get a feeling for what's going on. And then the phenomena itself, having people describe it. I think there was another, let me see here, 40 questions in that area. And then the interactions and possible symbolism. So that was kind of our initial question set. We just took it pretty much right out of Lloyd's book, and we would send that to people because it would give you a really good feel for what's going on. So then the other things we would send, and these are all validated, published question sets. We would send them the anomalous experience inventory, magical ideation scale, tolerance of ambiguity, paranormal short inventory, dissociative experiences scale, revised transliminality scale. Then the reason we did that is because every one of those scales looks at a factor that's been correlated with people having anomalous or paranormal experiences. So we're trying to get a feel for not only what's going on, but how do people interpret things? What's their belief system? What's their experience with past paranormal phenomena? What do they think about it? Do they think there's natural causes? Do they think there's only paranormal causes? So we'd take them through all that. And the other thing it really helped do is weed out people that weren't serious about either, I say it now, wanting help, or wanting an explanation or actually taking this seriously. If they're like, yeah, we're not going to fill this out, it's too much work. So I'm like, okay, so we're not going to do that, because if you're not going to commit the time to answering what we thought were critical questions to help us understand what was going on, we're not going to waste our time on it. So Carol, here's the here's the book, ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, a Parapsychologist's Handbook by Lloyd Auerbach. It's great. The questions in the back are great. So that's the first thing we would do. So I think that kind of overlaps with what Kenny was saying. Then you look at all that, and we'll talk about more of these different steps and what's involved later on in the show, I'm sure. But then you go and do the pre-investigation, the on-site visit, the on-site interviews, interview the witnesses separately, have them walk you through the location. Then you figure out, should we even come and do an investigation? Did we find a natural cause? Is it easily explainable, or do we need to spend more time there? And then, of course, you go in. If you're going to do one, you do the investigation. Data's collected. You analyze the data. We used to always put a report together and then go back and kind of tell the people what we found. But there are things I would do differently now. There's better question sets. There's one that's really good that came out a couple years ago, and it not only talks about do you have paranormal experiences, but do you attribute it to a paranormal causation. So it's one question set that gets at both of those things. So you can kind of see how they're thinking. And then the other one that just recently was developed, and this would probably be more for, well, you could do it based on what they report, but when you're there and if any of the investigators have anything happen, it's called the Survey of Strange Events. So what I like to do is take these validated published question sets, apply them to what's going on. Then, of course, all the questions about the phenomena, who, what, where, when, and how. Take a look at it, and we always got a pretty good feel for what might be happening at that point.
Very cool.
That's good. I'm writing that down.
I'm taking notes too.
The Survey of Strange Events sounds like a really cool, like, mystery movie too. I'm going to get to JD's question, but just to kind of top it off for you guys, like my first step, thinking about an investigation, I kind of think Kenny talked about it because he stole my idea. But the only thing I would add with that is, for me, like, I try to determine like what my goal is. And what am I shooting for if I like try to look at something? Mm-hmm. Am I trying to explain something? Am I trying to find something? Am I trying to help somebody? What is my goal? Because my goal at the end will determine, I think, what I do later on down the road, which mm-hmm. also kind of coincides exactly with what Dave said. So if someone has like a lot of problems, like I've had a call before about, this guy talking about he had the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse coming through his wall in his house, and he really needed help with someone because he was really scared of these entities. My goal at that point is not to investigate, but my goal is to talk to him and find out if I can find some family that he might drop a name or a phone number to, so that I can inform the family that you might want to go check on this dude. So that would be my goal. So it's just differentiation between like what the goals would be to what the claims are. But I got a good question.
Yeah, I think that's covered actually in the question sets. It's kind of one of the ones is, what do you want from this, and what do you want from us? What do you want? What's your goal of talking to us and having us come investigate?
Mm-hmm. So how do you determine what is or is not a testable claim? I have a pretty simple. Yeah, I was going to say, if I can come up with a way to test it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be like, it's probably too simple, but I mean, honestly, if I can't come up with a way to test it, then I'll ask. I'll ask.
Come on, dude.
I'm getting better. I'll ask them. That's too good.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Sometimes it's difficult, especially when you're just starting out. I think to differentiate before, and I still have trouble sometimes. Like, I wonder, like, can I test this? How can I test this? And it's always good to reach out to other people. I mean, I reach out to you guys all the time, but it's more or less, I guess, listen to the claim. What's going on? What do they say happens? If they say that, when we walk around, sometimes we hear a voice. Okay, so that's a random event. It's not something we're going to really be able to test because, I mean, you can, I guess, long term, yeah, you can set up recorders and stuff like that and go the distance, but it's random. So you're going to invest a lot of time into something like that. Whereas, and again, I go back, I know this is the dead horse that I keep beating with this example, but if someone says that every single night or morning, 2 a.m., footsteps come down the stairs, the main stairs, that's a testable claim. You can be there. You can be there and witness it. You can record it. You can put what are those
vibration
sensors, kind of on the steps to see if there's actual something going on. There's a whole bunch you can do to test that claim to see if it's legit. So that would be a good example, a basic example of what a testable claim is. as opposed to something that's not testable where they're like, oh, well, we see a shadow. Where do you see the shadow? Oh, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's over there, sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's during the day. That's completely random. I think you're going to have a hard time trying to set up a test for that.
Do you ever ask them to keep a diary, and then you might discover a pattern?
Yes.
After they do that for a while?
Absolutely, yeah. That's if it's general. If there's a lot of general claims like that, yeah, that's top of the list. Keep a journal, date, time, where you were, what you were doing, and then details. Like as much detail as possible. I always tell them that, but that's even hard for. And I'm not knocking people, but sometimes that's really hard for them to do. So,
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Let's see.
Freaking Bob.
Bob energy, boy.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
I think sometimes you have to be careful about, and unless it can bleed over, replicating and testing could be two separate things.
Right.
I'm with you. Like we certainly have something going on now at White Hill. I think it's, you could probably say it's a test. We're trying to test a claim that, there's lots of claims that it's a very intelligent set of ghosts maybe that live there.
I mean, that's a good example. I mean, that's, and I'm sorry, I totally cut you off.
No, you go ahead.
But this is a testable claim because there's been dozens of claims that came out of that place that say they get intelligent responses. When they go in there and do EVP sessions, they get intelligent responses. They ask questions. It's direct responses to their questions. So the test, just a simple test that we did, we put an object in there. I went around, and I know this is probably not going to be a perfect test, but we went in there with an object, walked around, said it out loud, announced it, said, whoever's here, this is what it's called. This is where it's going to be. If people ask for this, please. If they ask for a hidden object, please tell them where it is. Please tell them where it is so they can recover it. And did that several times, hit it, and just asked ghost hunters to go in there, ask your questions. Ask the spirits, where is this object? What is it? And that's it. That's pretty simple. They find the object. If they tell you, hey, like for instance, if it's I don't know, a planchette, because that's what I have handy. If it's a planchette and it's, on the desk in the upstairs office, and you get an EVP saying planchette, office, and they go upstairs and they say, this is what we found, planchette in the office. This is our guess. And if that's the guess, so be it. That's two intelligent responses that led you to where it was. Okay. You win the prize. But to me, that's a testable claim. And we're trying to test it, but no one's done it. Well, two people have tried, but they broke the rules.
Did they?
Yeah, they broke the rules.
Oh,
yeah. One was taking things apart, which is that's a no-no. I mean, it states clearly in the rules, do not take apart things. And the other one was it's supposed to be a uncut video of the entire session, and they wanted to submit like 6 or 7 parts that they edited together. I mean, they were wrong anyway, but it's still that's just breaking the rules. So
yeah. Well, I think we kind of got the first part of it pretty well covered. About like when you have that initial claim, unless there's other questions. And I want to preface, like, I certainly am not saying this is the only way or the best way. It's just, I think just trying to whittle it down to the bare bones. But for me, it was just, trying to figure out, like, what do you want to do? What can you test? Can you test it? Listening to it, is this something you want to do? But what do you do when you say, okay, I'm going to go take a look at this claim? So when you get there, what do you do? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Dave. You first.
So that would, yeah, that would move into what we used to do as like a pre-investigation visit. And we would have people take us through the house. You'd videotape and record the entire session. Obviously you would interview witnesses separately and do that first, but then get a layout and have them take you through the location to tell you where things happen, what were the circumstances, the day, the time, the who, what, where, when, and why, and go through all that. And then obviously as you're doing that, you're thinking, okay, well, if you saw, let's say, a light fly across the wall, okay, well, there's a window at the front of the house and there's a street out front, or there's a T intersection where cars turn there. So you note that. So you're writing down things. So the first step is to go there and be in the site, get a feel for the location, get a feel for the people, speak to them personally, look for natural explanations right off the bat. So it's kind of it's almost like I don't want to say debunking, but it's a fact-finding mission. It's looking for natural causes type of situation. So that would be the thing we would do before we decided to do a full-blown investigation. Mm-hmm. So when it got to that point, and this is where I want to make it clear, we weren't necessarily there to investigate a single, let's say somebody had one single claim. I saw a ghost one time in the corner of my room. One time. Have you ever had anything else happen here? No. That's a one-off. Now, while that's interesting and you can collect some information on that, we didn't typically pursue those type of things. We were looking for locations that had repeated activity, a lot of different things going on, because we were trying to understand why things happen, what's going on in the environment, what's going on with the person, what type of interactions between the person and the environment. Is there normal explanations, albeit weird ones? Are there totally natural explanations that could be playing a role? So, we weren't really looking to explain everybody's individual one-off experience. We were there more to go in and collect information to further our understanding of what happens in a location with people and the interaction with the environment. So I think it might be a little different than even what some people do as investigators on TV. Ours is almost like collecting data for scientific analysis. And we would put a report together and tell the people what we found, but we always told them we can't, it's hard to say if it's haunted or not because you don't know what a ghost is, but you told them, this, at least the data we collected, it looks like locations where other people have reported things. So maybe there's some trends there. There's some correlations between what happens. So yeah, we did investigate, but to me, it was more like trying to collect data and kind of understand what's going on a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty much preliminary for me, is more like, the interview. Let's get the details. Give me the details. Let me know what's going on. If there's something to pursue, like the one-offs, I'm with you. And I don't know if this is true, but it kind of almost feels like it's one-off.
It can be interesting. I mean, people who, let's say, have a crisis apparition, or they find out, they see their grandfather who, visited them in the middle of the night, and they're like, oh, okay. And then the next morning, let's say they find out he died at the same time. That's a one-off, but it's still interesting. There's data there that's interesting, but that's typically hard to investigate besides checking facts. And then that's about it. Collect the story, check the facts, and put it in a file to analyze with a lot more case studies at some point.
And I think when I go into if I go into a location, I love field work. I love going out. It's not always practical, but when it is, then I do pretty much the same thing as Dave was describing. I interview the people involved, the witnesses, and I use a 360 camera. It's like one of my go-to things. I literally walk through the entire thing and take 360 video. That way I get a really good 4K look at everything. And as I'm going around, I don't have to worry about pointing this way or pointing that way. I can actually just hold the stick and go, look over there when you get a chance. There's something over there. But then I can still see what's going on around me. I take notes. I take measurements. If depending on what the claims are, like if there's one case I did, there was a door that would constantly open and close by itself. And they swore that there was no drafts whatsoever. And of course, when I got there, I mean, besides the big 8-foot tall, 3-foot wide window that was busted out and only had a trash bag over it, there were gaps in all the windows in this old place, and you have the two windows and there's a gap, sometimes almost an inch, that's just open to the outside. So these things I take measurements of, I take pictures of, and just explain to them, like, look, this is most likely the cause. And that's the kind of data I collect. And again, like Dave said, I mean, you get the feel for the place. Sometimes you need to be there. You need to see what's going on, because the witnesses, they have an experience, and likely if they're contacting somebody to look into it, they had an experience that probably frightened them or weirded them out. So they're not sure what's going on. Regardless of what the cause is, they still had something that kind of scared them and they're not sure about. So take the approach and just talk to them and say, all right, let me take a look at this. Let me see. And sometimes the best thing to do is to go there and just have a look around, because they're not going to see some details that we might be looking for, because we have the experience. We've done it so many times. Like, all right, let me check this. Let me check that. Let me check this again. I might see something they don't. So I love going on location and yeah. I mean, that's the preliminary stuff. And I really, depending on how much time and how many claims they have, that might be the only visit, because if I can get through stuff, and again, I'm not trying to debunk things. I'm trying to investigate. I'm trying to solve that mystery, and debunking to me is a result of some of that investigation. That's how I try to approach it. I'm not going in with the intention of saying, no, this is not a ghost. Definitely, I'm going to prove that. That's not it. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And one of these days, I mean, I hope it turns out to be a ghost. That'd be fucking awesome. But
I don't think that people understand that enough sometimes when they listen to a skeptical side. Is like, I don't not want there to be something badass as a ghost, like appear and like hang out with me. Like, I would absolutely love that. I think sometimes that's unfortunately missed, that skeptical and cynicism sometimes get used like the same thing. I can't say this. It's already starting to work. So
it begins.
synonymously. That doesn't even sound right. Okay, like the same thing. They get comparable. Is that the same word? I don't know if that's a word either. Comparable? If it isn't, then I just coined it. So I'm rich.
Oh man,
trademark.
Yes, right. So you guys had for me, the same thing. You guys have pretty much the same thing, pretty down the same as if I'm going to actually go somewhere and look at something, I would add I like looking up the historical records. So if the claim actually has something like so and so was killed at this place, or this person or that person had committed suicide in this place, or this place has a lot of connection with death, like I want to actually look it up. And that's even before I go. The statement as witnesses is great. I think Kenny really knocks it out with the 360 camera, but photographing and videoing everything, even before you start to think of something, is just a really great idea, especially for later on when you go back and you can look at where you were and retrace your steps.
It's also good, just in case, just to cut in real quick, it's also good if you're doing the tour or walking around and something happens behind you, you get it. Because you're looking forward, but I can spin that camera and look behind me and see, oh, did somebody accidentally bump something or knock something over or something like that. So really useful.
Yeah, we used to do a floor plan. We'd have people draw up floor plans when we're there to be used to mark down what they're telling us at the time, and then later for the full-blown investigation. And there's
I
some
have-
other
yeah.
things that I would use them for now too that we can talk about later.
Well, we got a few questions coming, so let me jump to those. Carol is asking about hidden thing, asking the right question. Maybe spirits aren't interested in hide and seek. Like, I kind of think I understand like where you're going with that. However, for at least for us, and I think when we've talked about it, the claim is that whatever is there, ghosts will intelligently answer your questions. So I guess on the global scale of everything, we could throw in it's possible that they just don't want to tell. If you want to look at it that way, but you know, we're acting on that. The claim is that they will interact, and we want to find somebody that can interact with them and guide them to a hidden object. Does that make sense?
I think yeah, and I mean when you're talking about something, let's just I don't know how to say it, but let's take it from the perspective of a ghost. Okay, if there's a ghost and it's in this place, and for some reason it is trapped there, it cannot move on to whatever, and it's just dwelling in there, and it wants to talk to people. Obviously, people have claimed that it did talk to them. This would be a way to really show, like, hey, I'm interacting. I'm really here. I can lead you to this thing you're asking about and tell you where it is, instead of answering questions like, oh, how did you die? Or, you know, what was your favorite food to eat? Or something like that. Silly questions that don't.
What colored jeans am I wearing?
Yeah. You know, like this is an opportunity to actually interact and be progressive, to say, hey, I led you to this place. This is not just random noises or random voices or answers. This is specific, and it says, hey, I am here. Something is here, and you're dealing with something. So, I mean, that's just the mentality that I have.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't give a shit. Maybe, like,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't want to talk to you. I don't care what your little toy
I'd be
is.
like, what am I, 5? I'm not playing hide and seek. Fuck
Yeah.
off.
I like it here. Free rent. Nobody bothers me. I get occasional ghost hunter. Ask me stupid questions. Yeah.
I can't remember where I put up my own damn keys. I'm not going to help somebody else find something they hid. Yeah, I mean, it's just one way to try to figure out if they're intelligent and they're interacting. I mean, there's obviously other ways to do it. You could do other EVP sessions. You could look at the context. You could look at questions that are relevant to the situation and what you're talking about, and specific enough to where you could take them out and have people identify those clips, and it would have something to do at least with what you're talking about. You know, there's one paper and scientist that's trying to do this communication thing with ghosts, and you know how you have that little to see if you're human test. You know, if there's a car in this picture, respond yes or no, and it's all automated, or is there a train in this picture? So it pulls up a picture. It's almost like that determine you're not a robot test when you go into certain computer things or your bank account or whatever. So they're doing things like that. It's like, okay, so if they hit and they would get that correct, then you know it's just not random noise, but there might be something intelligent there, because it's looking at it going, okay, if I have a picture here, is there a train there? Okay, yes, there is, and that's correct. And then the next one is there a car in this picture? No, there isn't. So they would say no. So you could go through and record those type of things, and that might give you some idea of what you're interacting with is on an intelligent level. But there's different ways to do it. But you know, the way Tim and Kenny have it set up, it's an interesting test, and it would be interesting to see, you know, the result they get. Which is nothing, because I'm sure Kenny would have said so by now. Or it's something interesting to hear about it. But, you know, the other thing, and this is something that plagues parapsychology tests too. Even if you got somebody who got a response that's 100% accurate, let's say they nail it, how do you know it's not them using some sort of psi ability? They located and imprinted the message on the recording device. So that's not going to tell you there's an intelligent ghost there. It might just tell you there's some sort of parapsychological phenomena going on.
So
Because they could be clairvoyantly finding
like
and
that.
detecting the location, and they could be imprinting it on the recorder, which is probably just as likely as a ghost telling you where the damn thing is.
See, I like that, Dave, and I think we've all gone through this too. Is like you're assuming that the information gets recorded because it is a ghost or a spirit, but you're missing out other possibilities.
That would be
if you're
the
not
first thing. I
careful.
mean, if you got someone, I'd be like, that's really cool. You got someone, but I'd be like, well, how do you know it wasn't the living person?
Mhm.
That does not prove that there's an intelligent ghost there at all.
Mhm. That's really good. Yeah, that's a really hard twist.
And he's looking around like I just pissed in his Cheerios.
No, I'm thinking. I mean, now they'd have to know where or what it was and where it is.
Remote viewers and people do that all the time with telepathy experiments. I mean, hidden objects in envelopes, hidden objects in locations, remote viewing, clairvoyance. They do it all. Supposedly, they do it all the time.
But they have a target to go after. Like they have a target
They
location.
could ask to find hidden things, like go through this location and there's a hidden object you'll know what it is when you find it, or tell us what you see. They might just go through the place and tell you what you see. But if the people go in there and they know there's a hidden object, something that shouldn't normally be there in a spot it shouldn't normally be in, if they're somehow scanning the environment, I know we're using one unknown to explain another, but if you're scanning the environment and there's something that isn't right here, like if I'm picturing like, oh yeah, that cabinet under the sink, let's say I can see under there. I'm like, oh, there's a Lego man under there. I'm like, ooh, maybe that shouldn't be there. So now then you're able to imprint that message on the recorder. So to me, you won't ever be able to prove it's an intelligent entity or if it was a human subject doing some sort of parapsychological phenomena.
I want to clarify my look. When I look around like that, it's not because you pissed in my Cheerios. It's because you're making me think, and that's why I love our conversation. You made me think.
Right.
Like, all right, let me think.
Jen has a new take on it. Pissing in his Special K.
What's
Special Kenny.
Well,
No, I'm just making a smart ass comment. I knew you were just thinking. That's okay.
But
but I like that you did that, because I've had discussions with people that tell me it's 100% a ghost and they have evidence and this is proof. And I'm like, well, I think, in my opinion, what you've done is captured alien intelligence. This isn't a ghost.
There's people that claim, and I wish I could find somebody that would publish this, that they've actually said that they've recorded people while they're asleep, living people that are asleep, that obviously they weren't talking at the time. But that's another claim that's out there. I like I said, I wish they would publish something and really do the study right. But that just tells you, if they think they're getting that, then why do they think they're talking to ghosts when you're doing EVPs?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, the conclusion, real quick, just the idea of the test is not to prove there's an intelligent entity there. It's to see if there's something interesting. That's basically what it is. So it's like, yeah, if you come back to me and you found this object, it's like, oh shit, we need to look at this closer.
It's either the place or the person you need to look at. And, you would obviously want to repeat the test with the person,
right?
Maybe in a non-haunted place.
Ooh, a control? What? Science? Get the fuck out of here.
Ain't nobody got time for control. This is top grade shit.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob has an interesting question. I like this question because it ties into something also that we've all hit. Nope, that's not the question. Here it is. It's with the Q. Damn it. Damn it.
I know. That Q throws you off, don't it?
It does. Would it be better to ask a question in the vernacular of the entity that you're trying to communicate? Maybe the reason why entities do not respond to investigators is because they don't understand the investigator's slang. Would that be a valid test for you?
I don't know, because like you have so many EVP sessions already for people to speak normally, and it's I guess it comes down to what vernacular are we talking about? Are we getting very specific to like a trade or a certain kind of people, certain history? because you have the standard questions: who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? How'd you die?
Who's
What
your
year
daddy?
is it? All this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's standard stuff, and we get answers. So I don't know. I don't know.
I kind of think I don't know how much it would have changed over so long. I guess unless you are being very specific about something. But yeah, like Kenny said, there are just some that are even the intent is still the same, and I think pretty easily understood. Like, what's your name? Where is this? Who are you? But what I like about this question is the questioning of the slang being a problem when we see that people talk about that once you pass away and become a ghost, you apparently gain this knowledge on how to manipulate electronic devices and the airwaves around them.
Magic.
So magic, yeah. And I think that's a good question because do you? I mean, that's it. Kind of contradicts that in a way that either you gain all this knowledge or you don't gain this knowledge. Either you have all this new knowledge because you're in a different realm or something, but you don't have the knowledge because you can't understand slang. And I'm not saying anything bad because I think that's a good question, and it makes me think a lot about. And I love questions that make me think, but it's almost like you can't have one, if you have one, you have to have them all. If you don't, then you don't have any of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know Lloyd Auerbach used to talk about things like that anything with parapsychological phenomena, it's goal oriented. And he uses an example where there's a study where they had somebody who claimed that they could, exhibit psychokinesis, they could move things. So they used a very specific laser to point on an object that was kind of hanging there, and they told the person to move it.
I'm sorry, Dave. All I heard was laser.
A laser on a freaking shark head.
Sorry.
So they used a laser.
That was a great impression. I know exactly who you were. And
they had it pointed at this object, and they're like, according to the readings, that object should be moving. We actually should be able to see it. The object wasn't moving. The laser was bending.
Oh.
So they told them to change the readout of the data to show that something was being moved, being the object. But it ended up they weren't actually moving the object. They were supposedly bending the laser. So it's goal-oriented. So the fact that you might not know how to manipulate the machine, maybe you don't need to. Maybe it's a goal-oriented thing, and I don't know how it works. I wouldn't know how to figure out how to manipulate a digital recorder or a Kinect or make two stick figures hump each other. I don't know. I don't know how you would feel.
That's easy.
Not for me.
That's a good point Jen made. I like that. Maybe the reason ghosts don't respond to investigators is that there's no reason to. I think us as humans try to over-exaggerate and try to gain a better perspective of what's going on. Well, maybe there's not a lot of perspective to be had. Maybe it's just simple, easy points they're trying to make, or maybe they're not trying to make any points at all, and we're just trying to find a reason in maybe nothing. So maybe that, or maybe they just don't care. They're just like, hey, I'll communicate you when I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see if I was a ghost, I'd be a real dick about it. The more you yell at me and tell me to do things,
I'll remember that.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I go first. I'm going to remember that. I feel like, stop it, Dave. I know you're being a dick. Just answer the question.
Who's your daddy?
I'm just going to spew out random numbers when you ask me questions. You'll know it's me. Dave, what color is my shirt? 1011222341.
I'm like, motherfuckers speaking in code again. God damn it.
All right.
I'll know it's Dave when we ask a question and he'll say, well, there's 2 papers already published about that we can look at and you can
Tim,
go to.
I am better than that. I will leave the 2 papers mysteriously on your desk.
Yes. And I will thank you. Go on,
All right. What else we got?
Bring it back. I wanted to comment on the because way back when Tim brought up the history that I had to check off because that was on my list too. But add to it, like researching the history of the place, specifically of stories of the claims. So if you get like, well, we see a ghost and we believe it's this person who died this way in this room at this time, then I think it's very important to research this to verify whether those events and facts are genuine. And I've found on multiple occasions where either a person didn't exist, the location where they allegedly had an experience did not exist at the time, specifically like a building or a room didn't exist, or that the way they died was completely fabricated. It didn't happen. Like, like somebody that was an adult died of this, like a disease, and you find out, well, no, they were actually a child, and they perished, when they were like 5 years old. So this is really important when you're getting into stories, because I find that a lot of ghost hunting teams skip this step. They simply take that story at face value and they go in with that bias or the more. I think it's better to actually describe it as priming, because they get that story and now everything that happens, good. Check that shit off.
Keep an open mind. Don't work backwards from your assumptions.
Yes.
That's a deadly trap.
Yes. So yeah, I mean that was my 2 cents with the history research. I've come across that too often. So that's a main part of my investigation. Once I get the idea or the claims, I sit here and start. Let's look it up. Let's go through the records. Let's find the people. Let's find where they existed. Let's find the census, death records, whatever, and go through all the documentation.
Yep.
So I think for Carol also, I'm sure I speak for Kenny when I say this, not having anything respond to our challenge or our test, I don't think will lead either one of us to say nothing's there because nothing happened. It's literally, I don't know how else to put it. I guess for me, it's just almost like, what can we come up with to at least try to see if something's interesting there? Let's just give it a shot. It's like throwing a piece of bait into the ocean and just hoping that something bites and works. And if it does, then you take a look at it and try it again. But I don't think either one of us would ever say, well, it's been there for 2 years and no one's got it, so therefore there's nothing interesting there. So there's a lot. And I agree with everything Dave has said about it. There's just a lot to go on. It's just a shot. I mean, if you don't ever take shots, then you'll never get anything. So just try.
The interesting thing is it's a well thought out shot. You guys heard a claim, you put an experiment together, you have a hypothesis, and you're testing it. And even if you don't get anything, who knows, wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
But negative data is very important, just as important as positive data.
Okay. Yeah.
And I made a fishing analogy.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
good.
Very nice.
All right. So I think I don't know where else you guys are at, but just to kind of move on when you get there. I mean, this is really kind of involved, but I think just over discussion, we've kind of gone back and forth for everything, but, just some things on my list. If you guys have them, is just, I like the KISS method, at least when you're starting out. It's keep it simple, stupid. Keep it logical. It doesn't mean that you can't get more detailed later, but at least while you're there, just kind of look it out. Don't forget that you can be wrong. Again, Kenny got me or Dave got me. Keep an open mind. Be very careful of make an assumption and working backwards, because I think that's a deadly trap. I also like to, maybe we'll get into that, but yeah. So just getting there, evaluating the location, and keeping an open mind. That was pretty much the end on my list for when you get there.
Yep.
I like that. I like to keep it simple, because I do see people overcomplicate matters. try to inject. I don't know. Sometimes I'll just get it out of the way. Sometimes it's ego, where somebody just wants to sound super uber intelligent, and they overcomplicate the shit out of something, or it's maybe just repeating what somebody else said on TV or something, where a simple explanation is the best thing.
Yep.
But I don't know if it's hard to say that. I have no problem going in and saying, well, no, it's car lights from, that intersection outside. It's coming in, it's shining on the wall. There's your shadow. We can recreate it. Let's do it. Boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very, very important thing, because you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting everyone else's time, and it's getting right to the point. And I think that shows probably better experience and confidence to the person that's looking to you for answers, because it's like you're not stringing it out. You're not talking above their head. You're laying it out simply and flatly and saying, there we go. 10 minutes, we were able to figure it out. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. Don't get me wrong.
No.
I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, everything's 10 minutes. No. But if you can, do it. So there you go. 2 cents.
A couple other things before you would go there. I would go only when people reported things happen that time of day or night or whatever. Don't just go at night, and because it's dark, and the whole thing about it being quiet, and it's
witching hour, Dave.
Whatever. No, you. Yep, 3 o'clock. Got to be there right at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I would go at times when they've noted the phenomena actually happens.
Yes.
I would push for long-term repeat visits if they're not open to that. I don't know how much I would do with that these days. And I would also go in with a group of people that you didn't tell them what happened. So they're going in somewhat blind.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then when we get into what we actually would do when we're there, I'll move on from there.
I think I would add to this too. I mean, since we're getting all the steps out before we actually get in there.
Well, that's it. There's a lot to do.
There's a lot.
You don't somebody call and say, I saw something, and your whole group runs over there.
Right. Right.
And we've seen people do that where we've talked to them. We've asked them the questions. They're like, nah, this is too much work. We just want somebody to come over here. And we're like, well, we're out.
Yeah.
Not going to do it.
Yeah. And you're right. There's just so much pre-planning. There's so much work to be done before you even get there. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I would do is request either the original or the highest quality copy of whatever alleged evidence they have.
Yes.
So you can review it. Because there's things I can look at stuff like pictures and videos, especially. Yes, I can sit here and go through it and analyze it and figure out, okay, if you got a natural anomaly, if somebody did this, if it was a camera flaw, if it's operator error, go through it like that before you get there. And that saves a lot of time. I mean, it's still work. It's still, you're putting in an hour or two at least to look at these things. But when it comes to recordings too, like video or audio recordings or what have you, if you can get that copy beforehand and get a chance to just sit down and go through it, it might save you a lot of time. Even if you don't explain it, you have a better idea of how to plan out your visit.
Right.
Like, okay, I need to look at this. I need to try this. I need to do that. You plan out your testing, and then you go on site. And when you get there, you implement your plan. So there you go.
Good point.
That's 2 cents.
So great. So now that we're there, we're at an hour.
4 weeks later.
We should do part 2.
But if you want, can play a break. So just a heads up, I have drank a pot of coffee full of alcohol, so I am ready for a break.
Take a break, Tim.
All right. And then we'll get back into I don't have the break. I don't have the break clip.
Why? Where is it?
I don't know. Okay, we're just gonna have to speed it up.
Oh, just pee on the floor.
Hold on.
Oh boy,
That's good.
Oh,
That's okay.
man.
I don't know why I don't have the break.
I can
Thought I
send
had the
it to
break.
you quick, maybe.
Yeah, send me the break. We'll upload it while we talk.
All
All right.
we can
Keep
start to
talking
get
for a couple seconds there.
All right.
No dead air. It drives Kenny nuts.
Yeah,
So,
it does.
one of the things I was going to introduce was I hate to say evidence collection because we'll just call it data collection. So
Mhm.
once you get there, and Kenny actually kind of bumped right into it, was looking at all the original
Evidence,
yes,
pictures,
thank you.
video, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. But there's also like, how do you collect it? How do you preserve it? How do you document it as well? So there is still that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was going to get into that as well.
Pre-planning is important. That's why
Yes.
you have to do your interviews first, understand what's going on, what people are experiencing, when they're experiencing it, how they're experiencing it. Is there certain conditions that have to be met? All this stuff beforehand, because like at least for me, I write out everything. I plan it out. Like, all right, I'm going there. I'm not wasting my time. Like, if I get 4 or 5 hours at a location, I'm not going to be standing around for 2 or 3 of those hours. Just be
Right.
like, twiddling our thumbs, or let's just bullshit. I'm not doing that. I'm there for a reason. Let's use up all the time, and if there's tests to be done, let's set up. Let's get the equipment that I need, whatever that may be. Let's set it up. Let's have it ready to go well before we're ready to test. So, especially if we're in a time constraint, if there's a specific time that something happens,
Oh,
sorry, they're here to take me back.
it turns out I did have it. That was it.
Time for the anal probe.
Oh.
All right, so we are taking a break now, right?
Taking a break
Oh
now?
my God.
All right. Cool.
Yep.
All right.
This is terrible.
All
I
right.
hope I do it right.
All right.
See you in a few minutes.
Nope. Didn't do it right.
Oh, what am I doing?
You can't share the screen. Oh.
Oh,
Everybody
I
just
can't?
mute and we're good. Just mute and do what you were doing.
Okay.
That'll work. Instead
do
of
it.
putting it in the way to play. Okay, I'm gonna hit mute and All right.
Oh
Success.
man, I feel much better. This is what you guys get for putting me in control.
Hey, you got the commercial break in this time. That's good.
I did. I remember.
And
I
Kenny's
thought I
still
had it. I
muted,
didn't.
so
There you
there
go.
we go.
I fixed it. That's good.
Whew.
All right. So
All
here
right.
we are. We're at the location.
We finally made it in.
1 hour later, we're ready to talk about what we'd actually do when we got there.
That's good.
But
I
the
think
whole
it was
thing is
pretty
part
good.
of the investigation. Everything we talked to up to that is part of it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
This is just the fun stuff now.
Yeah.
All right. Who's going first? Tim.
I will. My first thing would be actually looking for if there are claims of anything physical to try to figure out how to collect it. I think we've gone over. I like the idea of mapping the scene very carefully, having photographs and video 360. I love that. But also, if you run into anything that could possibly have some type of physical information with it, and I would not discount trauma to a person, taking photographs of that. To be honest, I don't know how frequently someone would come across actual physical evidence. I think, guys, from the bloodstain that we worked with, previous to that, I can't really think of anything else that I've actually come into contact with other than, trauma to a person's skin or body that was acclaimed to be due to a demon or something evil.
Yep.
I have run into people that have had coins that say that they drop out of the air. But outside of that, I really don't think I have anything, but I think it would be important to understand collection of that and how to collect it properly and how to document that you have it and how to seal it for future use.
Cool.
Yep.
I
point.
like getting on location because it's I mean, besides what you were talking about, I mean, the main part of my investigations are always like, what did they present me with evidence? Can I recreate it? So let me see the scene. Okay, I planned it out. Now I'm getting a better look at it. I can see details much better. I'm looking for different things. So recreating the scene and the experience in general is important. All right, you were here, you were standing here, you walked this way. Let's see what we can see, peripheral vision, or what we hear, and all this kind of stuff, which is great. I love that kind of stuff. That's what I live for. And I also like observing the family dynamic. If it's people living there, when you're in that location, when you're looking around, and I kind of say, let me just take a look. You guys do what you normally do. Let me take a look at this. You get a good idea of the behavior of everyone that's involved, whether it's a family or coworkers or whatever. You see how they interact. You see how they behave. And I mean, it's a short time, but you start to develop a pattern. See, okay, maybe they do have like this whole shelf of books that has nothing to do but paranormal stuff, ghost hunting 101, just floor to ceiling. It's like, okay, maybe they're a little bit influenced by what they're reading. So you take that into account. If they argue a lot, there's a lot of tension. And that's just the basics. That's just the preliminary stuff when you're on location that I start looking for and start taking notes for. So,
yeah, I agree with both of what you said. Totally. The other thing I would be careful of, and back in the early days, our group made this mistake of overwhelming the location or the family with too many people. You want to get to a location, you want to kind of stay in the background and not be too obtrusive, because you want, as Kenny said, observing the family dynamics and the location. And if there is actually some sort of phenomena that's going to manifest, you don't want to upset the dynamic in the house. You want to try to blend as much as you can. So try to sit back and, do what you're going to do and do what you need to do, but try not to be completely disruptive, and don't have 20 people running around an 800 square foot apartment. I mean, you're not going to get anything. And try to make the equipment. We used to spend a lot of extra money on a lot of extra cords for cameras and DVR systems. Try to make the cameras not so apparent. I mean, don't have big tripods in the middle of the living room. Try to put them up on a shelf, run the cords behind furniture. Make it seem as comfortable and as much as like normal life as you can. So that's one thing we would do. And then as far as collecting data, obviously you guys know, when people listening to the show know that I'm into data logging. What? So if you're going to do any data collection,
when did this happen?
If you're going to use EMF meters, if you're going to take temperature readings, don't walk around. Don't say you're doing baselines, because it just doesn't work that way anymore. Data log it, and I would recommend data logging in 3 locations. One, somewhere where nothing has ever happened. Second one is where the person thought the phenomena was when it happened. So if they heard a knock on the wall, set it up next to the wall, or they saw an apparition in the corner, put the equipment in the corner, but also run it where they were at the time they had the experience. So it'd be 3 different things to take recordings and data from, because we don't know. So you got control where they were and where they thought the phenomena was. Because it's hard to say, but nobody's really produced any evidence that these things are objective in nature. Is it a physical, objective, let's say, apparition? There's no evidence of that. So, but it's still worth taking the readings where they thought it was. But you should also take the readings of where they were, just to see if there's something funky in the environment or something going on. The other thing I would do, which I wish when we were doing more of these private homes and businesses, we would have gone back to an old technique that Mayer and George Hansen used to do. You would take the floor plan. You'd give one to each investigator so they could write down all their whatever readings, or if anything ever happened. But you'd also have the homeowner do that, or whoever had the experience. They would also check off where those things were. And if you work with a psychic, have them go through and check off where things happen. And what you can do then, and I think we each have a shirt, and you can buy the shirt on Kenny's site there, run a 2x2 contingency table analysis. Is there a correlation between where the homeowners said something happened, where let's say the psychic said something happened, where the data readings were different, where investigators had experiences? That way you're collecting data and analyzing it in a way that you can see if there's something to it. And there's plenty of published studies and examples of this. And, it was going on in the 60s and 70s, and I'm really surprised nobody's picked it back up. It's an interesting thing to do if you actually want to collect data and analyze it, to see, is there something in a certain location of the house that everybody in your equipment picks up on? The other thing is, don't let people talk when they're doing that, and don't let them know what the other person got. Take it, put it in an envelope, and then give it to somebody else to actually run the analysis on.
Independent third party.
Yeah, or it can be somebody in your little group or something. But yeah, just make sure they don't know what happened that night and don't know the history of where the phenomena was and what's been going on there.
I like that. I also would add in like environmental conditions when you go to a house. I'm not trying to be mean here, but be aware of the living conditions. The house itself, the structure. If there's mold, mold is a big problem. If there's drafts, if there's holes in the wall where cold air is coming in, because if you have people feel cold breezes, and they're like, oh, well, we keep the heat on all the time, but there's a big freaking 3 or 4 inch gap between the window frame and the wall, then yeah, you're going to have cold spots. If the house is in disrepair, that's something to take note of. And these are all kinds of different conditions to be aware of as soon as you walk in. And these are things you do on the down low. You don't, point out like, oh, you got mold here. Oh, you got this here. Because that when you do that, you embarrass the homeowner and the family or whoever's staying there.
Might want to do that privately afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. You make note of it. These are all things you can do walking through the house. I always have a clipboard with me or a notebook, my handy 3 Tortured Souls notebook. Thanks, Tim. That I go around. I take notes, constantly write things down. Yeah,
which is a good point. We used to give people forms to fill out, so everybody would fill out the same stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't do that, even though you told them to do it. But anyway, it's good to have a standard format to collect the data in. So you're getting it in the same way from everybody. If you have more than one person there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, Dave, when you were saying like your team had made that mistake about having so many people, when my old team, when we were into it very often and heavy, there was always someone that wanted to do this. I want to come. I want to join. I want to go see it. And, 3 people turned into 6 or 7 really fast. And I don't want to dismiss like the times that, we know how it was like. You'd show up and you'd have all your Pelican cases full of equipment with stickers that says, highly sensitive scientific shit inside. Don't mess with it.
Exactly what mine said. How did you know?
Radioactive
highly sensitive scientific shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to work that thing? Yeah, I think so.
You plug it in and hit the button. But it got to a point where, people would bring in more snacks and drinks in bags than you would carry in. It was phenomenal at some points, and you would just have to like constantly.
Some of them were one keg short of a good party. Seriously.
Yeah, honestly. And that is distracting to what you're trying to do when you're trying to corral people outside and keep them quiet. And you miss the whole everything that you went to do because you're busy, doing damage and environmental control. So
right.
I did not want to dismiss that. I've been through that too. Which here is a good question. Dave, another show you talked about who do you want to bring, like building inspectors, etc. Is that too many people?
I don't think you need to bring them all at the same time. And that's one of the reasons I also listed that it needs to be long-term repeat visits. And a building inspector, I don't think they necessarily need to be there when you're doing your investigation, collecting data, running some of the experiments, trying to test certain claims. You can have them come pretty much anytime because they're going to look through a location. And if you tell them what's going on, they're going to be able to zero in on certain things and let you know if it's potentially a problem or not. So I don't think you need to have them there at the same time. And that's another reason why you should be able to visit a location multiple times. Sometimes things may not happen. Other times you might have a real active night, or you need this group of people to collect this sort of data that night. You need a different group of people or 1 or 2 people to go in there and do building inspection or look for carbon monoxide, look for mold and funguses and slime molds and funguses and collect them and do whatever you're going to do. Print is dead.
You missed the face, Kenny. The face was great.
But anyway, that's you bring people at different times. That's why I would say that if somebody's not willing, and I know it's intrusive, and it's honestly, it's another reason we don't do private homes and businesses anymore. If you can find a research location, which we look for now, and you can do repeated visits and really dig into it, that's a way better situation. But I get it. It's just disruptive. But if people really want answers and they really have concerns, they will accommodate it because they're going to want to understand. They want the help. We found as we got more into it and the shows became more popular and more groups, a lot of people just wanted to be entertained in their home. Yeah. It was like a reality TV show in their house.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of people just wanted a quick validation so that they could tell their
That's
friends,
true. That's a good point.
my house is haunted.
It's the most haunted bar in southern Wisconsin, or whatever the hell they used to say. Based on what?
If I had the choice, I would probably bring the home inspector with me on the preliminary. You know, when you initially go out there, that way, like when you're interviewing the people, the witnesses, the home inspector could be going around the home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that saves you a lot of time. This goes back to planning. It really goes back to planning. Plan out what you're going to do and make the most efficient use of your time, because I mean it's ideal if you can go back multiple times. And I totally agree with Dave. That's what you should push for. If you're going to invest your time in this, make sure you can go back again and again. But that doesn't mean waste your time. Be efficient. Plan it out and do everything you can. Because, I mean, if I'm sitting there talking to them and I can have a home inspector going through and looking at this, and they know what to look for, and they can come back to me and say, you know what? We can have a chat for about 20 minutes, a half hour, and I think we can resolve your issues right now. That saves everyone time, and it probably eases the fears and anxiety of the people that are living there or working there, because you can offer explanations from a professional. I love it. I love that idea.
And you could get a free home inspection, because those things aren't.
Hell yeah.
Those things aren't cheap.
So that's not what they said when I bought this place. Damn.
All right. What's
Sorry,
next?
I'm seeing if there was a question. So yeah, I other than collecting it, I had some notes jotted down. It's really interesting. I kind of skipped over something from the beginning, but just to go back on what you guys had said was having a diverse population on what you're going to go into the home for was absolutely something I loved when I thinking about was, if you go into the home with everybody that has the same goals, the same mindset, and the same, skill techniques, then, maybe you might get something, but to have somebody that's diverse and have something different to look at, and also someone that will tell you that you are full of shit and messing up. And I know that that's funny, but it's really good. It's really good to have somebody. It might not be that blunt, but I hope I got my my meaning across. Was have somebody that tells you you're messing up. I would rather have one of my friends tell me I'm messing up than to go through the whole damn thing, put it together, and give it to somebody else to go, what do you think about this? And then them go, I think you're dumb as shit, so you messed up. I would rather have someone that I know and trust that could tell me why I'm doing it wrong while I'm doing it wrong, and have a discussion about it and then correct it, than having to go through it.
That's a difficult thing for people to accept. And that's something I've learned over the years, where I used to get embarrassed. And I mean, we all know someone that still does, if you correct them, but you get embarrassed. But now, yes, I'm fully invested in, if I'm doing it wrong and you tell me, please, I encourage it. Tell me I'm doing it wrong and why. Don't just tell me I'm doing it wrong, but tell me why. And I don't get embarrassed anymore. It's not like, oh shit, I feel so bad and I, turn red and all that. No, I'm like, well, that's good, because I could have made a bigger mistake if I went and told this person or this homeowner something based on wrong information and walked away. Shit. So awesome. I mean, I love that. Tell me I'm doing it wrong. And I like how you explain the delegating authority. I think that's what you were going for, Jim, in the beginning, the first part of it. Kind of delegating the authority, everybody spread out, do their own thing, come together, and we meet and we discuss. So awesome. I love that.
Awesome. I guess the last thing would be what to do after it's done.
You're going to have to
Follow
go
up.
Do what? Make a splash reel, put it on YouTube.
That would be the one thing you shouldn't do. You're going to have to go through everything every piece of data you collected. And it's not only just, watching the videos, listening to the recordings. If you do that, it's taking the data and analyzing it to where you can get something out of it. Because I've seen people that say, oh, we analyzed everything and this is what we got. Well, okay, you have 2 bullet points under, let's say, environmental readings. There was an EMF spike at 2:30 p.m. Okay. So what? Did you look to see if there's any correlations with anything else? Did you look at all the other times there was a spike and maybe something didn't happen? I mean, people hate math. I get it. A lot of people hate math, but you got to find a way to at least present your data and do some basic statistical analysis to know if it's meaningful or not, at least a correlation, at least look at it and see, does it match up with something else? And then I would write up a report. Very matter of fact, the whole introduction, materials and methods, results, and a discussion. And then when you have all that, you can go back and present it to the location, the homeowner, or whatever you're going back to, and let them know this is exactly what we found or we didn't find. And if you didn't find anything, tell me you didn't find anything.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, don't make assumptions and don't take leaps from what you collected to something that isn't logical and doesn't make sense, or don't make something out of nothing, I guess is the way to put it. Be very, very just open and honest and clear cut with them, and just say, hey, this is what we found. This is what we didn't find. And when we would do that, we would never tell anybody your place is haunted, or you have we never said there was a demon. We never ever, we didn't say there wasn't a demon. We never said there was, and there wasn't. But what we would do is some of our reports, I can share a link when we're done, but you can see we actually put references of journal articles, what we're referring to, why we did certain things, and why do we think, let's say this location, let's say the data we collected, it looks similar to other locations where people have reported anomalous experiences. I'm not saying it's a ghost, I'm not saying it's haunted, but I'm telling you that what we collected looks similar to what other places where people have reported these things. And other ones we've come out and said, hey, guess what? We didn't experience anything. We didn't collect any data. Looks like anything else that, another location that had reported things looks like. And, people respond different ways, and you got to be ready for that, because a lot of times when they're calling you, if it's a legit call and they're upset and they're scared and there's something going on, they're looking for some sort of information, some comfort, some resolution. And that's hard to do because this is such an unknown. And we've never shied away from telling people, hey, we're not here to bust the ghosts. We're not here to tell you your house is haunted. We're telling you this is what we found. Take it or leave it. And that's it. We just don't know enough. And quite honestly, we could go on forever about all this type of discussion. And it's, again, another reason why we got away from private homes and investigations, because people are like, well, what should I do? I'm like, I can't tell you what to. We are not going to tell you what to. We don't know. We don't know what to tell you what to do. Let's say we found things that we couldn't explain. We're like, we just can't explain it. Should I move? I'm not telling you anything because I don't know what to do. And it can be uncomfortable, because we did have a case where a woman thought that her husband's dead ex-wife was tormenting them, and her daughter called John and said, why can't you just tell my mom that so she can divorce this guy and leave? I'm like, because of the ghost? Like, what the fuck?
No.
Anyways, but yeah, we wouldn't do stuff like that. So there's a whole thing called almost like client care. But boy, I tell you, looking back at what we used to do and what people wanted, I just wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do it again. I just wouldn't. I mean, if somebody calls us out of the blue and says, "Hey, what do you think about this? Tell me what you think." We'll do that, but we're not going to go and we're just not going to do private homes and businesses anymore. We're just not, because there's just too many things. Because if they're looking to get rid of it, we're not going to get rid of it. We're not going to smudge your house or run around with an eagle feather and make the spirits disappear. I don't know what we can do. I mean, honestly, we get to points where there were things we couldn't explain. We couldn't tell them. We'd tell them, keep documenting it, and just know that other people have experiences like this. You're not alone. Don't be afraid of it. Nobody's ever been hurt by one of these things, despite the bullshit that you see in the movies and on TV. And that's really all we could do for them. Right. That's it. Or sometimes, which is really uncomfortable, where your gut tells you, I need to get the hell out of here and you need to see a doctor. That is a very uncomfortable conversation. Because none of us on our team were doctors or psychologists. So to have a bunch of people who have matching jackets and shirts tell you need to go see a doctor, that doesn't go over well.
Your bowling shirts.
Anyway, so I rambled on for too long there.
Well, Dave, no, I absolutely love that. I'm not going to do a private home or a location or a business for exactly the same reasons that you said. If someone wants to ask me questions or opinions or anything like that, that's fine. But I think that you nailed it down, and the end game, the end play that you have is just really not there. And you're going to make a decision that could affect someone's life. I
mean, if you're cool with me just coming in, collecting data and showing you the data we collected, and you're interested in helping conduct some sort of research, which is what we do now, that's fine. We'll do that. But beyond that, no way.
Yeah. And I want to commend that I think we all do this, but I want to commend you for just being able to say, dude, I don't know what to do. And it's true. I don't know what to do either. And, so many people will die on that hill of
but
not
once they
saying
invent
that
a proton pack and a ghost trap, I will be fucking there charging $1,500. I know what to do. Ching ching.
$4,000 for collection.
But we have a special this week. It's $3,000 for containment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there are so many people that will die on that hill of never saying they don't know what to do.
Right.
And they put people at risk. I mean, maybe not even if it's not safety, they put people's financial stability at risk. I mean, if they're deciding whether to sell a house.
They look at us and they'd be like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, well, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to tell you to do besides keep track of it and know that other people experience this, and don't be afraid of it. You're actually, if there is legitimately something going on, that's pretty rare and pretty special. And quite honestly, I'd be pretty excited about it if I were you. Of course, they'd look at you, what are you, nuts?
Yeah.
Whew. Dude, I have so much to say. I have so many notes.
Jump in, Kenny.
All right, I'll shut up on my mute.
Yo, just tell me to shut up when I get too far. But oh my God, everything you said, Dave, I'm totally in agreement with. I'm right there with you. I would suggest definitely. I'm going to put it up on my stand here because I have so much to read off of. Follow up. That's important. Follow up. Because if you take the effort of going out there, of going to a location, whether it's a private home or a business or what have you, especially if it's a private home, follow up with them. That's really important. Don't just go there for 4 or 5 hours and say, hey, thanks for the fun. We had a great weekend. See you later. Because you're a dick if you do that. Flat out. That's it. You need to follow up. You need to go back to them. You need to tell them, hey, we looked at all the data we collected, not the evidence. We looked at the data and we determined this or that. We've consulted experts or professionals in their respective fields, and they looked at what we had. They determined this, because we don't know everything. I don't know everything. Dave doesn't know everything. Tim doesn't know everything. We consult each other and other people, because there's a vast amount of areas we know nothing about. So you need to seek out other people and get their opinions. Address the claims, address the expectations, because when they call you, if someone calls you, they have some kind of experience that freaked them out. They need help. They're looking for help. Address that and be honest about it. That's the important thing. Be honest. And goes into a little bit about what Dave was saying. If you don't know, own that. Say, I don't know. Like I looked at this. I don't know what it is. I've consulted some other people. They don't know what it is. We'd like to study it more because we don't know what it is. Doesn't mean it's scary. Doesn't mean it's harmful. We just don't know. Be thorough. One of the things that I can't remember the exact video that was commented on, but I actually watched a guy, and again, I'm going back to TikTok. Somebody posted a video. It was a paranormal video, and someone stitched it. So that means like they were like, "Hey, we'll play 5 seconds of this, and then I'm going to give my opinion." And this guy said he was a paranormal investigator, and that he was, and I quote, experienced at video and photo looking at. That's how he described it. He wasn't a photographer. He wasn't a videographer. He was experienced at video and photo looking at.
I don't think that would qualify on the stand.
Yeah, that's horrible, horrible. Don't listen to somebody like that. Be thorough though with your investigation. Really look into it and give the client. And I use that term loosely. I really don't like saying client because I don't like being hired. I don't like being a part of that because you're trying to help someone understand something. So be thorough. Get as much information as you can. Stick to what you know. Stay in your lane, really. Don't comment or pretend to know what you don't know. Because again, it goes back to you are a dick if you do that. Because you're trying to pass yourself off as an expert in something that you are not. And when you do it,
could be
like us,
you could be held. You could be held
accountable.
Yep.
Yes.
You could be held. Yep.
And I will definitely, if I hear about that, I'll definitely point that out. Like, look, they're not an expert in that, and they're giving you expert advice. They should not have done that. That's crossing the line. So know your limits. Stay in your lane. Be honest. Definitely be honest. If you don't know, say you don't know. That's it. And unfortunately, you have to move on. You can continue study. You can say, hey, look, I'm going to look into it. And if you say that, make sure you do. Again, it goes back to the beginning. Follow up. Because if you say you're going to do something, definitely follow up with it. And remember that you are viewed as an authority. Whether you are or not, you are viewed as an authority. So when you come in there with your bowling shirts and you're saying, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to set up all this equipment from our Pelican cases. I love that. You are viewed as an authority. So they are looking at you as someone that knows what they're doing. They're taking your advice more so than they would take advice from friends or family because you look like a professional. So remember that. And then that's pretty much it. I think I said everything on my notes. Just don't pretend to know something you don't. That's really gets me. And I guess at the end of it all, if I go out to a location, if I get that far, I have them with me every step of the way. Really, I mean they're with me unless I'm saying, you know what, give me some time. You guys do what you do normally. Let me look at this, and then I'll get back to you. And then I will. We'll sit down. I'll say, look, I looked at this. I saw the behavior. Maybe you want to seek advice from your doctor. That's all I can say because I'm not qualified to go any further with that. Maybe you want to talk to your doctor. That's a medical problem or a medical issue. Don't say problem. Problem is a bad word. Say medical issue. But I'll explain everything that I found that I can explain myself. And if I can't, I will call someone. I don't have any problem calling someone from the location and being like, hey, you know more about this than I do. What do you think of this? FaceTime them, whatever, get their opinion, and then relay that to the homeowners or what have you.
Yep.
I think I said enough, so I'm going to stop there. I'm starting to feel the rum, so I'm going to pass it back to you guys.
Well, I think an hour and 40 minutes into it, Kenny's starting to feel it. I am definitely somewhere within the middle of it. I lost a whole video for our break and then found it. That's pretty good evidence. We got a question, but let me look at the question and we'll kind of wrap it up. Let's see. You guys said no private home, but a no-nonsense relative has allegedly haunted 1790 estate in Frederick, Maryland, going to be sold to government in a year. Could ask if she's allowed us to investigate. She want team bios, protocol, etc., like talking tonight to make a decision. Oh, this might be something just to message us. Because it sounds like if I'm hearing you correctly, they're wanting someone to actually look into maybe allegations of a haunting.
Yeah.
So maybe message that, and then we'll kick it around and ask questions if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah,
Sure.
I want to clarify. Like, it's not like I have a strict no private home policy. If somebody comes to me and asks me a question, yeah, I'll answer the question to the best of my ability. If they invite me out,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't do it normally. I'm not a ghost hunting team. I don't like put it out there on my website saying, "Hey, just call us if you have a problem. We're here to believe you." Stuff like that. I don't do that stuff. But if someone really genuinely like has a problem and they're worried or scared or curious, then yeah, by all means, I'm gonna try and help as best to my ability. And I'm always aware of that. I'm aware of my limits. So
yeah, I would say in the last we stopped doing private homes and businesses officially in 2011. We've had, I think, 2 people that called and we thought, okay, we'll talk to them and because they sound legitimately concerned, upset, scared, and they were willing to put the time in. So then we sent them the question sets. Never heard from them again. We have not stepped foot in a private home or business since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we wouldn't make an exception, but it is so rare that we would. And it would be a totally different approach than what we did in the past.
I would, for me, I like that the way to discern it. If somebody called and would ask me, if they are actually having legitimate emotional or physical changes, or if whatever's going on inside of their residence that's causing them great strain or emotional trauma, whatever, I would accept it, but I would not necessarily accept it as an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably accept it along the lines of my first initial visit with them. Not to be tricksy, but this is kind of my wheelhouse. So it's a little different for me. Going to people's places and doing assessments with them is something I've done for years. But my first gut, honestly, is if they're having a lot of problems and it's definitely affecting their daily living skills and life and ability, I kind of feel like I want to meet them, not necessarily for paranormal evaluation, but just to say, do you have like family? Do you have a safety net? Do you have someone that you can trust? Do you have someone that you can go to? That's kind of where I fall, because I think it just at the end, if you're going to put it out there at the end, it's just like Dave said, like at the end, what are you going to recommend? Like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't know if there's any tested practice to that's been it's been validated to be effective necessarily in alleviating ghosts. So what are you going to do? How are you going to help them?
Yeah, I think they would, at least for us, I think they would have to agree that we would come out really only to conduct a scientific investigation and collect data.
Right.
That's the
I like
only
that.
time we'd come out, and we're not going to be there to definitively tell you what it is
Mm-hmm.
and get rid of it and help you with it. We're there to collect information to learn more. And if you're cool with that, maybe we'll go. Maybe we would do it, but we would want, the medical. Have you made sure everything's good medically, psychologically? Have you answered the question sets? But we just haven't come across a case that would be interesting enough for us to even think about that. Just the way it is. And the problem is there's so many other groups that'll just snap up something like that they're just like, yeah, we'll be out tomorrow and we're going to tell you it's the demon from whatever. And there's too many groups doing things they probably shouldn't. And it's really it's diluting the potential to find a really good case to collect some information on.
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah, I definitely would not just dismiss something like what Carol's saying, but as long as wherever we're going understands that I don't look at me to tell you have a ghost or don't have a ghost, but I would really like it'd be really cool, one, just to see the structure of a 1790 facility. That'd be just cool as hell just to go look at. And two, if you do have claims, it'd be just kind of fun to go see what the claims are. Like, I would enjoy that as long as you understood. For me, at least on a one shot, like, I'm not going to tell you, you have a demon or a ghost floating around. A level 3, shit, already forgot. Spectra, class 1.
Torso, floating vaporous apparition.
Floating.
That's it. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, one of my disclaimers, if it gets to that point where they're asking me to come out, one of my disclaimers is basically, are you okay if I come out there and give you natural, logical answers?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not coming out there to find a ghost. I'm coming out there to find answers. That's what I'm doing. If that answer happens to be ghost, so be it. But
and then they treat you like paranormal Tinder. Swipe right or left.
That's right.
Next group.
Why I don't go out. That's why I don't get called to private homes anymore. Like,
next.
Him, fuck him. We want TV show people.
Fuck him. Yeah.
Where's that guy that gets possessed every week? We need him.
Oh, good grief, Charlie.
Well, I guess just in closing, I'll start with, just some basics, just to kind of fundamentally, like, I've been doing notes and so many things can fall in so many different places, but it's probably just oversimplification, but approaching an investigation or to do an investigation on something like this, I would, one, for myself, I'd want to recognize and understand my goal and what I'm going to do. And I love the idea of adding, because we're just sitting here talking about that. And the person that you're working with, I think that they should understand completely what your goal is, so that you're not misrepresenting. My goal is just to go out there and do some data collection and do some tests and see what happens. I can't clear anything for you, and I can't tell you if you have a ghost or a demon. I think once you understand your goal and your purpose, then you can develop a good plan. Once you have a good plan of how you're going to do it, you could develop your method of collecting data, and that there's a lot of stuff that falls under there, but just a method of collecting data. And then at the end, I liked you guys talking about report, review, and share. So I like a really good report, a review from somebody that you trust, and putting out what you did, your methodology, everything in a nice tight report, so that people can look at it and tell you, this is not, I don't like the way you did this, or I appreciate the way that you did this, so that you can get feedback from somebody.
Nice.
Yep. Good.
All right, I'll go next. I'll jump in. We're doing final thoughts, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
good because I'm
I gotta
so
pee again.
buzzed. I'm so buzzed right now. I'm barely holding on.
I got to pee so bad. I don't even know if I'm going to get the closing video right.
All right. So the closing thoughts. I mean, real basic stuff. Work smarter, not harder. That's a general rule. Plan out your investigation. Plan out what you're doing. Be efficient. Think about what you can do, when you can do it, and go from there. Don't waste time. Know your limits. Know your limits of knowledge, expertise, skills. Know when to ask for help.
Yeah.
Know that you cannot know everything, because spoiler alert, you don't. Just realize that you don't know everything. You need to ask for help sometimes. Remember that when you're dealing with quote unquote clients, you're dealing with people. They're people. They've had experiences. For the most part, they've had experiences and they don't understand them, and they can be scary. Remember that.
Mhm.
Don't go in there acting like this is just another TV show. Don't go in there with an ego. Don't go in there, like you're hot shit. Just go in there thinking this is a person that's scared, and they're looking for help. And for some reason, they turn to you. So remember that. Go in there like that. Be professional. If you don't know, say it. And then learn from your mistakes, because you're going to make them. You're going to make mistakes along the way. Learn from them. Don't keep doing the same mistakes over and over again. Don't pretend that you know about something and say, well, we look at stuff, we know what we're doing. You don't. Be kind, be professional, be honest. Follow up. I mean, there's still people that I've worked with years ago that I call randomly. I just call, I'm at work. I have nothing going on. I call them and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. What's going on? How you doing? Are you okay? Need any help? Can I help with anything? That's just random stuff, like you can do that. That's part of being professional. So, and if you need help, ask. That's the big thing. I mean, I'm always asking. These guys know. I ask them for help. I run things by them. I say, hey, what do you think of this? Tell me honestly. Does it suck? Like, hey, whatever I wrote. Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
You need more rum.
Agree with all that. The only thing I would add, two things. First one is realize it's complicated. It's the people, it's the location, and it's the environment. And it's the interaction of those things that, even if it's natural, that's what's going on. So there's a lot of things you need to think about. It's not just go in and wave an EMF meter and see and experience something. And people are generally in private homes, they're looking for some sort of explanation or some sort of resolution, which is hard to do because there's a lot of unknowns here, unless you can legitimately find a natural explanation and help them through it. So it's complicated, and it's not something that should be taken lightly, and you should consider it very seriously before you decide to do any type of investigation in a private home or business. If you're going to go out and do something at a public location, knock yourselves out. I saw somebody say, all this for a ghost hunt? You would do all this for a ghost hunt? We're not talking about ghost hunts. We're talking about investigations and research. This is the next level thing. If you want to go on a ghost hunt, go to East State Penn, go to Mansfield Reformatory, go to somewhere that does public ghost hunts and have a great time. But it's a whole different story when you're getting into people's lives and they have concerns and there's weird stuff going on they can't explain. And then the last thing I would say, if you want a really good introductory short book on investigating spontaneous cases, I would actually recommend this one. It's pretty good. It's Guidance Notes for Investigators of Spontaneous Cases by Stephen Parsons. It gives a lot of good basic information. Talks about interviewing witnesses, obtaining information, what to do, research methods, investigation methods. It's just a very good general book, and it's been updated. I think it was last year or the year before it came out. It's the new edition, and this is actually got the seal of the Society for Psychical Research on there. So they wouldn't put their seal on something that's crap. So this is a pretty good starting point if you want to look at how to start investigating spontaneous cases, because that's what we're talking about. When somebody in a business or a home or a location reports something, you are doing a spontaneous case investigation. And the information in there will get you started. The book I talked about by Lloyd Auerbach, it's got some great questions in there that you'd want to ask people. And there's just a lot of good information out there. So if you want to get started, read first, learn first before you act. That's it.
Awesome.
All right. I liked it. Well, it was fun. That was a longer show, and that was much longer than I thought. But there was a lot of information in that too. And I think there's even more information that we could have talked about.
Just order that book, Dave.
It's a good book. You'll like it.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. Anything to mention before we head out?
Oh, Jesus.
We're going to see you guys in Pennsylvania.
Oh, my
In
goodness.
Gettysburg.
I'm so excited.
Looking forward to it.
I'm so excited. So June 3rd to 5th is Phenomenology in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And the three of us, these three fuckers right here, we're going to be together. Holy shit. We're going to be... So, wait. This is in 3 weeks. Dave's next, right?
Right.
And so this is what? My turn? We'll be in Gettysburg? No, I think it's back to Tim's turn.
Oh, shit.
I don't know. I don't do math. That's Dave's job.
We'll figure that out when we get
We're
there.
gonna
I have a
figure it
feeling,
out.
since we're all sitting in the same damn room,
Yeah,
it's everybody's show.
it'll be
All
our
three of
turn.
us are responsible.
But we're doing a freaking live show. All three of us together. I am so excited about this. It's going to be
Yeah,
so
that's going to be fun.
Yeah. And
I'm going to end up blowing like alcohol out my nose from you guys. I can already tell. Like, it's hard sometimes. Like, I can turn off your screen or just look away, but to listen to you guys right beside me, I know I'm going to like lose my mind.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be so bad. So bad.
We'll have to work out the logistics of the microphones, mixers, and all that shit, but it's going to be fun.
I think I have enough equipment because I've done it before where I've taken it on location. So I think I'll be able to.
Between the three of us, we probably have enough stuff to figure it out. So
Yeah.
All right, got some portable mics and cords and everything.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
So that's that. And then what do I have? The next thing I have is August 20th, 22nd is the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which benefits the Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors and kids with cancer through a corporation called Heroes for Hire, which is really cool because they send superheroes to hospitals to visit kids. And the guy that shows up in a full Christian Bale Batman suit with the Batmobile. Freaking awesome.
Nice.
Freaking awesome. And I will be in the dunk tank. They have a dunk tank to raise money for charity. And I will be in the dunk tank. I don't know how long, but this is your chance. If you want to dunk a skeptic, by all means, come on out.
I've been practicing.
Yeah. Whatever.
I'm going to run up and hit the thing. I'm not going to fuck around.
I'm convinced that everyone is going to do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So that's what I got going on for now. I know there's a few other things in the works, but I'm not going to mention them yet. But I might be passing through Gettysburg. Would it be nice to meet you all? There you go. If you're there,
it'd be great.
First weekend in June. That's
It'd be great to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
That's all I got.
Well, if you guys will figure out who is up next.
Dave's up
I
next.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching.
Yep.
See you guys.
Good weekend, everybody.